When something is Tamari less than another, it means that coordinate-wise it's less. So the 0, 0, 0 is going to be less than everything. Here's this 2,000 is going to be less than 2,100, and less than 3,100 too. But that's not a covering relation. So I've shown this in red line again, only the covering relation. 2,100 versus 3,100, 3,200, 3,210 is the big guy here. They have 3,210, they have 3,210. So by looking at any two of these trees, by the coordinate systems, you can immediately tell where they're related, but the red lines are the covering lines showing you which are something that's just bigger than this. You know, there's nothing between 200 and 3,200. And that's obvious if you look at the if you look at this non-crossing condition, because the 200 has a scope going out here. So if you're going to increase the one in front of it, you're going to have to give it a scope of 3. Well, I already talked a lot about the Tamari lattice, so I'm not going to repeat what I did in that lecture, but I wanted to. But in the covering, I do want to show you what the covering relation is in the Tamari lattice. And so, if we look at the binary tree form of the forest, instead of the other form, in the binary tree, we have a situation like this. Here's a node. It has two subtrees, and this guy has another subtree. Call these alpha, beta, and gamma. The number of descendants of this node is call it absolute value of beta. That means the number of nodes in this tree beta. So that's how many descendants this guy has, because to the right is listing it at the right all the descendants. And to the left isn't. Similarly, here the Tamari coordinate is the number of descendants of this node, which is the size of this tree now. The Tamari covering relation would take this into there's also an environment. So this is part of a binary tree. It has some attachment to a larger tree, perhaps, viewed from the right or the left. So what we do is we rotate it, and after a rotation in the binary tree, it's the most fundamental operation for balancing a binary tree using lots of different computer algorithms. Then we have alpha, beta, and gamma. The nodes are still the same in symmetric order. First come all the nodes of alpha, then comes this guy, then all the nodes of beta, then comes this guy, then all the nodes of gamma. Same on this side, it's alpha, this. But now, notice what's happened. This guy still has gamma. The size of gamma is the Tamari coordinate here, but the Tamari coordinate of this guy is 1 plus the size of beta plus size of gamma, because now that's the size of the right subtree here. So you can see that this operation has increased exactly one of the coordinate of the Tamari coordinates, and it increased it to the smallest possible value. If you took any value smaller than 1 plus beta plus gamma to this guy, it wouldn't satisfy this it would violate this condition. So if I'm going to increase this Tamari coordinate from absolute beta to anything else, it has to be enough to avoid crossing the link from this guy to his children. So basically, by studying this kind of idea, you realize that this is exactly the smallest. This tree is above this one in the Tamari ordering, and there's nothing in between them in the Tamari ordering. And furthermore, all of the coverings are of this kind. So the covering relations are formed that way. Well, now what's happening then is that if I flip left and right to take the dual of the operation, then we have different coordinates because now we're counting the size of the left subtrees instead of the size of the right subtrees in the coordinates if I'm flipping left to right. So what must happen is that the operation of on the dual must be taking the dual coordinates, and every time I do a positive rotation, I'm sort of doing a negative rotation on the dual. So the conclusion is that if every covering relation in the Tamari lattice increases the positive coordinates, and in the dual it decreases it because it'll go from something like this to something like this if you flip left and right. Therefore, on the covering relations, the dual of this is less than the dual of this. If this is less than this, so flipping left and right, this is going to be less than this, because flipping left and right also converts this side to this side. That's why I had the theorem that I mentioned a minute ago, that the duality is reversed. So again, this diagram, if I tipped it on its side, the red lines would be in the same position, because what I've done is I put the dual of this guy over here and the dual of this guy over here. These are I worked everything out so that their dual was in the 180-degree rotation position of the other person. So now there's another thing I wanted to show you about this picture, though, and that is the next theorem, which is why I like this way of representing the force, and that is that if F is related to G in the CRE8 lattice, then F is also related to G in the Tamari lattice. So these lattices aren't independent of each other, but there's a strong connection between them. So what does that mean? Picture-wise, it says that anybody who any relation in the CRE8 lattice also corresponds to the same relation in, like here. This tree has to be less than this one. Well, this tree is less than this one. It isn't directly less than this one, but it's less than this, which is less than this one in the Tamari lattice. And so that's the theorem that relates one to the other. It says that being CRE8 related is a stronger condition than being Tamari related, but they are exactly analogous. That this is a little coarser relation. And this theorem is also obvious because if you look at the covering in the CRE8 lattice, what we've done, if I can only find the picture of the covering in the CRE8 lattice, we've done something that increases the coordinates. Yeah. So if we look at the Tamari coordinates, how many descendants everybody has here? This was the guy that has this is the big guy and this is the small guy, and you see that the number of descendants of everybody here is the same, except that all the people on this right path here have gotten more descendants than they had here. So all of the Tamari coordinates of some of these nodes are bigger than they were up here. But inside the rest of the diagram, the Tamari coordinates haven't changed. So by going from here to here, I increase some Tamari coordinates. I don't decrease any Tamari coordinates, and that's why it's less than the other one in Tamari land, because Tamari definition is based on the coordinates entirely. Okay. So now I've got this idea of Tamari lattice, and I promised you 3 lattices. I'm going to the third one, which is the Stanley lattice. Before I do that, let me just mention, why do we study these things? I mean, the theorems turn out to be rather beautiful when you start looking at them on trees, but so what? And I don't know. Years ago, I wouldn't even have raised that question, because it was, to me, it was so obvious that it's interesting to discuss this stuff that I didn't mention any other justification. But anyway, So some people now think the only purpose of computer science is to make money for other people. So how does this make money for anybody else? And so my answer to that is, well, historically, it's always turned out that whenever there's a clean mathematical relation between fundamental objects that we work with every day, like trees, forests, this turns out to give us more familiarity with those objects. And we study these things, we look at them, and all of a sudden we're more comfortable with trees, and we see bigger pictures. We take giant steps when we start thinking about trees. We're able to envision many more things to do with them. We think of other structures that are built on top of these, and it's because we've gotten some fluency. In the old days, we didn't have the name of what a mathematical concept of a tree was, and neither do we have names for other things that we now use every day, like vectors and fields and lattices. So by studying these properties of these things, especially when they're clean and natural, it always has turned out that this has led to later developments in the next generation. So it's there's another